Jon Atkinson, JA Tools. I'm just going to make a nice little 3/4 fullered straight bar shoe out of the gas fire. Just going to demonstrate how certain tools work, like the Elite Roadster Fuller, the concave stamps and the Pritchell, my welding flux there, and show you how the correct way to use the tool compound is. So I've started with 15 inches of 3/4 3/8, which is, I don't know what that is, 15 inches, 20 by 10. And I'm going to put a toe bend in. Normally, if I was making this shoe, I'd toe bend it, I'd hockey stick the bar on the end of it, and I'd bend that branch, so I'd have it 3/4 made in one heat. But I'm just going to break it down and simplify it. So we're looking for a toe bend, not a long toe bend. Generally, when people put a toe bend in, they hold the steel right at the very end, and they put the end on the anvil or the bick, and they start forging a toe bend from there to there. But your toe bend only needs to be short. It might be a long piece of steel, but toe bend's still the same length. So shorten your grip up a little bit, and move that down the bick a little bit, bend your toe. And as you level it, glance at the shoe, and just assess what's wrong with it and what's right with it. As with all flat shoes, or most shoes you make in general, maybe with the exception of concave, when you bend a piece of steel, the steel gathers up and it gets thicker around that inside edge. So when you bend it, you just got to run that inside edge off, just nicely there. If not, you end up with a shoe that might give sole pressure. So that for me is quite a nice little toe bend. It's quite balanced from there to there. That's a branch, and that's the branch. Obviously, we're not concerned about that shape. It's just from there to there. The next heat, well, normally I would have hockey stick that on, backed it back into itself, and bend that round in one heat. But I'm going to break it down and do it in loads of different stages. So my next heat, I'm going to get this branch hot. I'm going to break it over the bick, roughly about there. So that's where I'm breaking it there. I'm going to forge that down to an angle where it's coming off the shoe, and that, not quite 90 degrees, just under 90 degrees. 90 degrees will be there. I'm going to have it just under 90 degrees. So I can put it up on the anvil with the bar up in the air there, and back it back into itself from a hammer. And that'll create a real sharp corner on that outside edge. So the shoe will come round like that, and it'll just have a real sharp outside edge. You're looking for a good corner like that on a bar shoe to provide maximum support. So when you're competing, or I've got the fire on in the background so the sound's not too good, but when you're competing or doing any sort of an exam, you need the tools out that you're going to use. You don't need loads of clutter. I could have 2 fullers out, 2 different stamps, 3 Pritchells. I could have all sorts out, rulers, different brushes, but I'll just get the tools out that I need. So I'll put them in an order that I'm going to use them in first, and when I've used them and I know I'm not going to use them again, I'll just drop them on the floor so they're out of the way, so there's less clutter on the table. The last thing you want when your shoe's going cold on the anvil is to be rooting through looking for, oh, I can't find the fuller. But get it all laid out in the right order. Every tool you need in the right order. So I know I'm going to make this shoe, I'm going to weld it using the welding flux first, and then once it's welded, I'm going to mark the fullering up using the ruler and the chalk, and then I'll either drop them on the floor or put them right out the way there. And then I know the next tool I'll need is a fuller, so I can grab that straight away. Once I've fullered, my stamps are there already, and my Pritchell's there already, and the last tool that I'm going to use is a backhole Pritchell, so I'll put that farthest away. The other thing, just while that shoe's getting hot, the other thing with the welding flux, any sort of welding flux, when it's in your toolbox, the iron settles to the bottom, so get it out of the toolbox, and while you're waiting for your shoe to get hot, or before you start your round, your competition, or whatever you're doing, your exam, just turn it and just give it a good old shake so it all gets nicely mixed up in there. So that's not quite hot enough, a little bit of a cold spot in heats, and then makes it a little bit easier for you to hear what I'm saying, what's going on. So I'm going to start with this hockey stick where I bend it round to an angle just under 90 degrees. So there you go, that's the angle there that I'm looking for. It's just under 90 degrees, and I've hockey sticked around approximately from the inside edge there, 5 centimetres, about 2 inches, just over 2 inches. Once I've got it, I'm going to put the shoe on the anvil, so the branch of the shoe is going to be flat on the anvil, and leave the bar up in the air, and then drive it back into itself. So the anvil there will create a sharp corner on there. That's what you're looking for. So that's as much of the sharp corner as I want at this stage. When I come to forge the bar up, I can get that really crisp and really sharp. Now, everyone's got different ways of setting up a weld. This steel's going a little bit cold, but it's alright. This is the way I choose to do it. I just find it the quickest and most easy method. So the other thing I've done that you might have noticed or might not have noticed is, as I've hockey sticked that, it used to be 10mm. I've hockey sticked it and it's I've driven it back into itself and it's swollen up fractionally now, so it's actually 11mm thicker. And what that'll do is now it'll give me the tolerance for when I'm forging my scarf, forging my weld back in. I've got a 1mm tolerance. I'm leaving that intentionally slightly thicker. So it's not massively hot, but I'm only bending a branch around a bit. It's no big deal for that. Hold it in the toe like you would normally. Work over, not over the narrow part of the bick, I'll just work a little bit further up. And then work that inside edge off. That said, you get that thickness of your thickening of your steel on the inside edge all the way around there where you bent it. Just forge that off nicely so you don't have any sole pressure. Quick glance at the shoe, open that, in that. And that's looking like it'll end up as quite a nice little bar shoe, I think. So I'll just go for this in one heat. This is how I do it in an exam, or if I was competing, even if I was making them up for just for horses at home. Bend it to just angle just under 90 degrees, drive it back into itself, let the steel thicken up on that bar there, keep the bar straight. Scarfing it up ready for the weld. And then this is the important part, make sure that that branch there ends up on top of that branch there. So just bend it down a little bit. Have a recce up. As you leaven it, just glance at it, see what it needs. Run that inside edge off where I said it gets thicker to avoid sole pressure. So that's ready for, well, it's ready to have another little heat to set the scarf up. When I'm welding bar shoes, I like to slightly invert the bar. So at the moment that bar's parallel like that, it's level. I'd like it to come round to that and just go in slightly and back out on the other one. The reason being, when you start forging that, it pushes all that steel back out. So I may as well invert it when I'm setting it up for the weld, rather than try and, if I didn't invert it when I welded it, it would go round on the back. That's like one of the main faults you see on bar shoes. It should be dead straight. So while I'm waiting for that, I've already shaken my flux a little bit. I'll just pour a little bit out onto the anvil, just make sure, you see how it's nicely mixed up. I haven't got a white area or a black area where there's a white area with no iron, or a black area with none of the flux in it. So I'm going to come out. Guys weld using different techniques. I prefer to use the what you call the toe of the hammer there. That's the heel, that's the toe. I prefer to use the toe of the hammer and push the scarves back in, push the welds back into themselves. But there's no problem if you want to use the heel of the hammer and sort of pull the scarves back into themselves. I've just got the habit of doing that and it works well for me, so I'll stick with that. I'll leave the fire going when the shoe comes out, when it's ready. I'll leave the fire going so it's ready for, gets up to a nice temperature, ready for welding. Keep it nice and clean. Anything you're welding, keep it as clean as you possibly can. So like I said, I'm going to invert that bar. See, that bar's just quite nicely inverted there. Yeah, the bar goes in and back out again. And then scarf up. Don't worry about denting your scarves. Try not to dent the actual shoe, but don't worry about denting the scarves that you're going to forge in. But don't forget, because you left these bars slightly thicker, because when you hockey sticked it round and drove them back in, it's now 11mm thick. It gives you 1mm of tolerance. That means you can dent the shoe without and be able to forge it out, you know. So it's not massively important if you do dent it by accident. also set up quite nicely there for a scarf. Just check to make sure there's no gaps in between it. It's quite nicely pushed together, there's no gaps. Give it a last quick brush, and then I'll flux up all 4 surfaces. So flux up the ground bearing and foot bearing surface, flux up the frog plate and the outside surface. So the first bit that I'll weld in now, it'll come out the fire, and I'll push that scarf in there, and I'll push that scarf in there, and then it'll go straight back in the fire for another little heat. So I'll put the bar there, you can see the bar. I've just got the bar, the weld, into the hottest part of the fire there. So as you can see, it's nowhere near ready yet. The good observation you can have is the colour of the flames coming out the side there. At the moment they're sort of an orangey colour, and they change colour, they get a sort of yellowy colour as the weld gets to that melting temperature. But as you can see there, it's nowhere near. The top of the shoe's getting hotter quicker than the bottom of the shoe, so take it out, turn it over. On the side of the fire now, just starting to change colour fractionally. Every time you open the forge door up, it cools it down, it lets a little bit of the heat out, so not pretty good generally as a rule at fire welding, so it's not too bad for me. But it's not quite ready, it's just smoking, but the top surface there is hotter than the bottom surface. So I'll leave the fire on so it retains its heat. So this is ready for welding. Out the fire, straight onto the anvil, no messing about. You can't afford to be looking at the shoe in thin air, you need to be straight out the fire and onto the anvil while it's hot. So I'm just using the heel of my hammer now just to push these scarves into each other. Just very, very gently. I don't mind putting a few little dents in there. I'm also moving the shoe from side to side so the bick's forming the inside of the frog plate there. So when I'm hitting there, the bick's getting in there and that's forming up the frog plate, so I'm getting a real nice contour to that frog plate there. So although it looks like it's quite well welded there, a lot of guys would tend to, see how it's thick where the weld is there, a lot of guys that tend to flatten that down now, but I'd never advise to do that. You should always have 2 welding heats before you flatten a shoe down. You can weld in 1 heat, but it's never as good as 2. So I always flux up, even though that surface totally welded, I always flux up all 4 surfaces. Yeah, keep turning it over when you're forging that up, and you can just keep an eye on what's going on with the bar, just in case it does crack or anything untoward happens with it. Back onto the bick. The bick's doing the work for you really here. All your hammer's doing is forming a sharp corner up there. As you can see now, the bar's just starting to bow outwards a little bit, so we'll bring that back in. So we'll have a quick glance at the shape now. So it's not a balanced shoe at the moment. That branch there comes in at that angle there, and that one's coming in more at an angle like that. So we'll just get rid of that. Get that balanced up a little bit more. There we go. And now I'm going to just tidy up the bar. I'm going to make it into a hammer finish bar shoe. So tidy up the bar. There we go, reasonably balanced there. So now balance up the bar with the back edge of the anvil. Balance up your ruler with this front edge of the anvil, and that'll give you the start of your fullering. That's a nice temperature there just for fullering edge, fuller it, nail hole it. Keep your steel clean. Very important to keep steel clean. So fullering edge, we'll start where the fullering starts. we're closing the full section off. We're not just knocking the corner off there. Just the bar's just bowed out slightly, so when I've got heat on it, I can sort that out. Level it up. Fuller. So the fuller's designed to go into the steel 90 degrees. I'll have to have another heat on this. Normally I'd fuller in edge, fuller at nail hole it in one heat. But the fuller, all my fullers designed to go into the steel, 90 degrees into the steel, not designed to be leaned that way or that way. Even if you're one of the guys that fullers that way. Hold your fuller 90 degrees to your anvil or your steel. And just follow that inside edge round. So I'm following that edge round there. This is the place where most guys go wrong. When they get to the toe stop, they tend to run out. Nearly everybody does at some point in time. It's just one of those things. You have to be really conscious to keep coming round with your fuller. Don't get to the toe stop there and go straight. Just follow it round and keep following that contour of the shoe all the way around. So I'll get to that toe stop there. So that's nice fullering. With a bit of chalk there. That distance there is all the same distance. It doesn't get bigger or smaller any of the way around. And the same on the inside edge. That distance is all the same way. Same distance all the way around. So I'll put that back in the fire. I'll get a nice little heat on it. I'll sink that fullering in and we'll get back in business. First job, give it a brush. When you use tools like your stamp, rituals, fuller brushes, put them back on your table. Don't drop them on the floor, put them back where you know where they are. So we're going into the fuller and I'm keeping that fuller up at 90 degrees. Just moving it along in tiny little bites, paying close attention. I'll get to the toe stop there and I'll just drop my hand down a little bit. The fullers, I make them so they fan out towards the blade, which means you get a better stop end. And a stop end in a shoe, a 3/4 fullered shoe, is a key feature. It comes around, it's dead square. So nail holes. A lot of guys will put the toenail right up there, they'll stamp it in, and then they won't be able to get the head of the nail in. If they do get the head of a nail in, if it's in the wrong place, they won't be able to get the pull-offs on to pull it out. So just not there, just move it back a tiny bit, just about there. So I've got the fullering in nicely now. I'm just going to run the corners off, so I'm going to lean the shoe over at 45 degrees. So the anvil on that side is going to take out any little lumps or bumps, and my hammer's going to take out any little lumps and bumps on this side. Just fast light blows, overlapping blows. When I come around to the bar at the back, instead of having it there, I'll just move it up towards the point of the bick. And that way, as you can see, the bick gets right into that corner there and takes out any little dents that you might have occurred. That's a nice little branch there. So the fullering, when you go around the bick, you always close your fullering up and distort your nail holes, but there's no point going through it. Really, I could get the fuller in again now, re-fuller it, re-stamp it, re-pritchel it, but I'll leave that until the end, and then I can get it all done in one heat. So I'll get this branch done as I would normally. I just fuller an edge, fuller it, stamp and pritchel it in one heat. So I'll find my stop that I put in, fuller an edge, level it up, find my stop end, and then I'm following the inside edge of my fuller, just keeping that distance all the same all the way around. Get that stop end in there nicely. Nail holes not in the toe, just back a little bit. Get it leveled up and then get back round your bick again. There, we've got a basic little bar shoe knocked out. I'm just going to put it back in the fire, safe, roll the toe off there to give it some break over. Double check my shape, which doesn't look too bad at the moment. Then refill it, re-stamp and pritchel it. Shoe done. Oh, there, we don't need too much heat for what we're going to do. As I'm brushing it, I'm just having a quick look at my shape. All around, it's just a little bit round. Whenever you alter a shoe or run corners off, you know, you run the edges off round a bit, you always distort your fuller in slightly and distort your nail hole slightly. So it should always be the last job you do. Just point that out to you. A lot of guys always miss out on this. Simple little thing that makes a balanced shoe look unbalanced. The fullering on that branch there finishes right across there. Right, the line's not quite on it, but that fullering finishes there. That fullering finishes about 8mm further forward, so it gives the effect of the shoe being out of balance. So just get your fullering to finish in the same spot, whether it's a bar shoe, a 3/4 fuller shoe. Unless you're intentionally stopping short, always have your fullering stamped the same. So you've got nail holes already stamped and pritched, so it's just a little tap just to clean them out again. When I'm striking the tools like the fullers, I always just strike the fuller, the stamps, every tool I hit, I always use the round face of the hammer to hit it, with the exception of the pritchels. The only reason I use the flat face on the pritchels is you knock your pritchel in there and then you've got to knock the shoe off the pritchel. If the shoe's quite hot and you knock it with the round face, as silly as it seems, silly little thing, it puts a tiny little dent in there. And if you're trying to make a perfect shoe, but every time you knock the shoe off the pritchel, you put a tiny dent in it, it'll just muck it up a little bit and you'll lose marks for it. So that's not a bad little bar shoe, it's just knocked out. It's very difficult to make a perfect shoe and talk about it, but that's not a bad shoe at all. If anything, a little bit straight there. It's not quite symmetrical. When you're looking at shoes, sometimes you make a shoe and you can spend, some guys will spend maybe half an hour, 40 minutes making a bar shoe, and they've stared at it for 40 minutes. Sometimes you just break it down like that. Instead of looking at the complete shoe, and you can see there's one or two little faults on that, just break it down, run your hand over like that. You can see that's got a straight bit there. That's got starting to turn in there a little bit. That one's turning in slightly higher up. Then that branch is coming in a bit sooner than that branch. So just break it down and just pick out those little faults. I've been making shoes for years, I've made thousands of shoes, and every now and again you just get lost with the shoe, and sometimes it's quite important just to break it down and look at it in stages. And that's it.